Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to Get Real. Usually, we would start the show with the intro and then, a quick little thing, and then I'd go into an NFL recap. But given what happened recently on Monday night, I figured it was a little bit more befitting if we started with that. We're going to skip our usual NFL recap just because of the extreme circumstances on Monday night. So let's talk about the man who's obviously on all of our hearts and minds right now, Damar Hamlin. There's no way currently of knowing exactly what happened to the 24-year-old Bills safety. I'm just here to tell you everything we know as of Wednesday morning and just try to keep all the speculation to a minimum. For obvious reasons, we have no intention of showing the video of the play. The most important thing in these situations is to have respect for the families and the young men and women close to the victim himself. For those of you who didn't see it, on a relatively routine play, Hamlin made what appeared to be a relatively routine tackle on T. Higgins. He immediately got up after said play, but after only 2 steps, he collapsed once again to the ground. Medical staff immediately rushed to his side. Players were forming kind of a human wall around the whole situation, trying to let the med staff go to work. Hamlin was administered CPR on the field, and an ambulance was brought in to take him to a level 1 trauma center. For those of you who may not know exactly what that is, a level 1 center is basically equipped with every kind of medical care that you could possibly have, any kind of doctor or surgeon, any kind of medicines. And then a few hours after he arrived there, it was announced that he had entered cardiac arrest on the play after getting hit in the chest. While his vitals are normal, he is still in critical condition, and he was sedated. The easiest first place to go is that we'd all like to extend our prayers to Hamlin and his family. I'd also like to extend basically a thank you to Joe Buck, Troy Aikman, Lisa Salters, Susie Kobler, Adam Scheffner, Booger McFarland, Scott Van Pelt, and all others on ESPN who continued to report late into the night on everything that they knew. They took an impossible situation and handled it probably about as well as they could have. It's also important that we give credit to the fans of Cincinnati, along with the fans of Buffalo, many of whom went to the hospital along with the Bills fans just to show solidarity and support for Damar. Credit also to coaches Sean McDermott and Zach Taylor, who took the situation basically into their own hands. The refs, I'm not going to try to disparage them. What they did is probably what is written down. What they're supposed to do is after a big injury, the players get 5 minutes to warm back up so they can continue playing. But obviously, this situation, it's a little bit different. Both coaches came together, and they took the matter into their own hands, and they took their teams back to the locker room. Players and coaches met outside the locker rooms, where they appeared to make the call to end the game after getting off the phone what I have to assume to be is some NFL higher-up. All of this is bigger than football. Everyone involved deserves credit for recognizing that. We're not going to speculate too much about what happened to Hamlin. All we know is that he's still obviously under, and the doctors are doing everything they can. They've switched the oxygen they're giving him to be a little bit more natural. But I believe and hope that the NFL will have to make some kinds of changes to avoid more situations like this one. Obviously, this is a situation that is incredibly rare, but you can't have more than one of them. Frankly, it's horrifying that they even had one. I don't know what kind of rule changes you make, but I think you have to do something. Our thoughts and prayers go out to Damar Hamlin, his family, his teammates, and his contemporaries across the league. And we're going to take a quick break here in the studio, and we'll be right back after this. So we're going to move on now to a quick NBA recap of what's been going on over the past couple weeks. There's going to be no more Hamlin talk for the rest of the show, so if that's what you tuned in for, I have no judgment if you decide to tune out. Obviously, it's a very heavy subject, and there's no reason to stick around if you don't want to. But we're going to move on, and we're going to talk about just some stuff that's been going on. Luka Doncic is what I'm going to lead with because he has been playing out of his mind lately. He's averaging almost a 50-point triple-double over like his last 6 games. It's incredible. He's been very efficient. Obviously, he had a great comeback against the Knicks with like 30 seconds left. They were down 9, and they managed to come back and win in overtime. Obviously, the magnum opus of this run he's been on was that Knicks game where he had 60 points, 20 rebounds, and 10 assists. No game like it in NBA history. The Mavericks have moved up significantly in the standings of the Western Conference. They look a lot better as a team, but I have to wonder how much of that is just Luka playing out of his mind and how sustainable that may be. It may not be, unfortunately for Mavericks fans, but this really just confirms what we already know. Luka Doncic is absolutely incredible at basketball, quite possibly the second best player in the world right now. But moving on to another guy who tried to match Luka's stat line, Donovan Mitchell just 2 nights ago had 71 points, and I believe it was 10 or 11 assists with 8 rebounds in a 21-point comeback against the Chicago Bulls. Now, I'm not going to sit here and pretend like the Bulls are the stiffest competition in the world, but, I mean, if we're going to give credit to Luka for doing it against the Knicks, we have to give credit to Donovan for doing it against the Bulls. An absolutely incredible performance. The most points anybody has scored since Kobe scored 81. First time anyone's gotten to 70 since Booker did it. The difference is Booker did it in a loss against the Celtics. Donovan Mitchell did it in a comeback win. Another absolutely incredible game. Really just an offensive explosion that we're seeing this season, especially in the recent weeks, which is something we've kind of been saying every year about the NBA, but it's really making itself clear this year, what with a 71-point performance and a 60-20 triple-double. Moving on to what most of you probably care about, the Celtics, still, I believe, the number 1 seed in the conference, but they're kind of befuddling is the word that I'm going to use, because I don't quite understand how it is that sometimes they look so great and then sometimes they look so pathetic. And I understand the NBA season has its ups and downs, so maybe it's just the highs and lows of the season. But I don't know, man. Last night they gave up 150 points to the Thunder, and the Thunder didn't even have Shea. Like, if they had Shea, I'd get it, because Shea's averaging like 30, so it's like, all right, everybody else just has to have like an okay night. But they didn't have Shea. The only guy we were missing was like Robert Williams, who's been in and out anyway, and they still gave up 150 and lost. The Nets are tracking us down in the standings. The Bucks are still staying right with us. I like what I've seen from the Celtics, but they need to keep it up or else we could be in some serious hot water here. I know I said a few weeks ago, I don't mind what seed they finish with as long as it's in the top 3. I'm going to be honest, I kind of lied. I really want them to have the 1 seed, just in case we end up going against the 2 or 3 seed. Although, admittedly, home field advantage isn't quite what it used to be. So I'm probably overreacting a little bit, but it's still concerning that they could lose so many games so puzzlingly. Moving on out west. So a few weeks ago, and this is 100% on me, I said that we were starting to see the effects of Father Time go against LeBron James. I lied. I spoke too soon. He turned 38 and he got better. Since he scored 38 points, he has not dropped 40 points in a game. Now, admittedly, it's only 2 games, but that's still insane. And I mean, just even before that, he's been on an absolute tear. With Anthony Davis out, the Lakers kind of need it because they're still not winning every game in spite of the fact that LeBron's averaging like 35 points, 10 rebounds. He's shooting like 55% from the field. He's 38 years old. Like, can we all just take a... This is impossible, what we're seeing from him. Like, there's no way anybody should be able to do this, and yet he does. The Lakers, I think, are on a 2-game winning streak. They have a winning record over their last 18. I think but they're only like 10-8. They have a chance at making it to the play-in, but I really think, unless Anthony Davis comes back and plays at the level that he was playing at very soon, if Russell Westbrook, he's actually been pretty good this year, very much the runaway 6th man of the year. He still needs to be more efficient, though. And if LeBron can keep this up, I don't know, maybe they make the second round. If everything falls perfectly, maybe a conference finals, but that's all like a 1% chance. I still think the most likely scenario is they A, miss the playoffs, or B, make the play-in and get knocked out because this team is just fundamentally broken. Moving on, a couple weeks back on Christmas Day, Nuggets game, Aaron Gordon. Actually, it's funny because I write notes for myself for stuff like this in the show instead of just having a full-on script. And right here, I just wrote, Aaron Gordon, holy moly. And as much as I want to make fun of myself, that's kind of the most apt description. We have the video clip of his dunk if we could get it. It's insane.
Here comes Aaron Gordon the other way. Gordon! Oh, my goodness!
Drink this in with your eyes, ladies and gentlemen.
I mean, he literally turned Landry Shamet into like a punching bag. Like, I think Zach LaVine should have won those dunk contests all those years ago, but it is a crime that Aaron Gordon finished as the second place guy so many times because he might be like Vince Carter level dunker. He is insane. The only other thing I have to say about the Nuggets is that they're good. There's nothing really to report on them. They're kind of, I don't want to say boring, but there's just not much to talk about, which if you're an NBA team is honestly kind of what you shoot for. But for me, it's unfortunate because I don't have any drama to talk about. But speaking of drama, I did a piece a couple weeks back on the Nets, and unfortunately they are back. Unfortunately for me, I should say, for the NBA community, it's actually good that they're a good team because they have so many good players. It's good to see them winning. But I called them dead in the water, and then here they are roaring back now. They're the second seed in the conference. Yeah, Kevin Durant's playing really well. Kyrie Irving, unfortunately, as much as I don't like him, I have to give him credit. He is playing absolutely phenomenally. Ben Simmons, still not the loudest stat lines, but it's kind of a Draymond Green situation where the stat lines aren't loud, but he's having more impact than the stats would say. Like I said, they're the second seed in the conference. They have a real shot at a title. I still think the Bucks are the better team just because of Giannis, and once Chris Middleton can get back to 100%, I think it's just the Nets have more good players, but the Bucks have better players. And I still honestly think the Celtics could beat them in a 7-game series. But it's just one of those things where we have to respect them now, which is unfortunate for me because I wanted them to be dead. But they're back, and you know what? Credit to them for turning this around because I really did not think they would be able to. But that's going to end our NBA recap, and we'll be right back after this.
Stranger things have happened. Yes, they have. Nothing shocks me about this game.
And a true rim. It's still.
Yeah, that Knicks game I was talking about, that was the one. Anywho, we're going to move on to our final topic of the day. We skipped our NFL recap at the beginning of the show, but I'm just going to talk about the Patriots for a little bit because they're in a I'm going to call it an interesting situation. So it came out yesterday as a headline that Robert Kraft is reportedly not happy with how the offense looks with the coaching staff that we have. And that really makes me worry about the offseason because the last thing the Patriots need right now with a young quarterback coming off, it's not bad seasons, but it's their worst seasons in a long time. The last thing I want is a civil war in the front office, but it looks like we might be headed headlong for that. But I got to admit, I have to agree with Robert Kraft. The only thing offensive about our offense is that it's offensive to look at. I'm sorry, I've harped on this before, but how can you truly believe that you can take a defensive coordinator who is fired as the head coach of a bad franchise and a special teams coordinator who is also fired as the head coach of another bad franchise and make them joint offensive coordinators for a second-year quarterback and expect things to go well? I'm sorry, that's just never going to work. And the thing is, we've always kind of been able to lean on the defense a little bit to try and, sort of make up for the offensive shortcomings. And admittedly, they've done that. But here's the problem. I can't even really call the defense good, especially after this last week, because while they had some defensive touchdowns and they made some good stops, it was against Skylar Thomas, a 7th-round, 3rd-string quarterback whose best attribute is his running. Yeah, they looked good, but that's like saying, oh yeah, I looked really fast when you made me race against a bunch of 3rd graders. Yeah, sure you do, but how manageable is that going to be when we're going up against an offense maybe like Cincinnati a second time, or maybe the Chiefs, or any of these other teams that can really gash you deep? And I think this really plays into what the biggest problem is. I've talked about it before. Belichick at this point in his career is just his own worst enemy because he believes in himself so much, and I like that because it's good when good people believe in themselves because they do more good things. But with Belichick, he believes in himself a little bit too much, what with the offensive coaching hires that I've already made. And frankly, the defenses aren't as good as they used to be. Not bad. The Patriots' defense is not bad. I'm not saying that. But it's not good enough to make up for the offensive shortcomings that Belichick has created for himself. I've never been the biggest believer in Mac Jones. I will 100% admit that. But even I think his ceiling is far higher than we are letting it be because we're shooting him in the kneecap. I mean, offensively, I don't know that many quarterbacks in their first or second year would succeed under this, except for, Brady did it, but that was 20 years ago. Maybe Mahomes would, but that's Patrick Mahomes. Josh Allen wouldn't have because Josh Allen in his second year was still kind of a project quarterback. So I think it's unfair what we're asking him to do, and especially this week. To get into the playoffs, we have to beat the Bills, which is certainly possible because the Patriots have an incredible ability to play up to their competition at the least expected point, and with these division games being what they are, I would not be surprised at all if we came away after Sunday with a win. But, like, it's unfair. The Bills are just such a good defense, and they're such a good offense, that it's unfair what we're going to be asking these players to do. There's just not enough talent for us to win at the level that we want to win right now. We either need to commit to a rebuild or commit to contending, and we can't commit to contending. We have to commit to the rebuild, and we're not going to. So it's going to be another 8-9 or 9-8 season where we're going to have a middle of this first-round pick, and we're going to pick up a player who's nice, but it's never going to be exactly what we want it to be. Heck, maybe we'll trade out of the first round, and then everybody will be mad, and we'll come back next year. Maybe Jimmy Garoppolo is the quarterback because we'll somehow manage to convince ourselves that he's a good idea to go back to. I don't know, man. It's just frustrating. And by the way, even if we do get in, we're probably going to get demolished. But again, maybe not, because the Patriots have this weird ability to play up to their competition. And as happy as I would be with getting into the playoffs and winning a playoff game, if that's the expectations for our organization at this point, we're in for a long next, I don't know, couple of decades as Patriots fans, because our expectations used to be so high. Winning a playoff game is nice, but our goal is championships. So if we consider getting in and either losing a close first-round game or winning a close first-round game and then getting demolished in the second round, because that, by the way, that's exactly what would happen if we made it to the second round, we've fallen pretty far as an organization, and that's kind of sad to see. But with that, I'm going to end this kind of Debbie Downer segment about the New England Patriots, and we're going to end the show. Thank you all for tuning in. Once again, thoughts and prayers out to Damar Hamlin and his family. Hopefully he can make a full recovery. 2 weeks from now, we're going to have our big finale show for the semester, of course. So make sure to tune in to see that, and I will see you then.